I want to begin by inviting you to take 3 deep breaths. And when you inhale, I want you to inhale joy and ease and peace. And when you exhale, I want you to release tension and control. So move at your pace, inhaling and exhaling, letting joy in and releasing control. I'd like to begin by invoking not just your attention, but attunement. Let your feet touch the floor. Let your body arrive. Let your breath find its own rhythm. You are not alone in this room. And you are not alone in your calling. And you are not alone in your grief or your dreams. I'd like to read you a poem. It's by Wendell Berry, A Vision. If we have the wisdom to survive, to stand like slow-growing trees on a ruined place, renewing, enriching it, if we will make our seasons welcome here, asking not too much of heaven or earth, then a long time after we are dead, the lives our lives prepare will live here. Their houses strongly placed upon the valley sides, fields and gardens rich in the windows. The river will run clear as we will never know it, and over it birdsong like a canopy. On the levels of the hills will be green meadows, stock bells and noonshade. On the steeps, where greed and ignorance cut down the old forest, an old forest will stand, its rich leaf fall drifting on its roots. The veins of forgotten springs will have opened. Families will be singing in the fields. In their voices, they will hear a music risen out of the ground. They will take nothing from the ground that they will not return. Whatever the grief at parting, memory native to this valley will spread over it like a grove, and memory will grow into legend, legend into song, and song into sacrament. The abundance of this place, the songs of its people and its birds, they will be health and wisdom and indwelling light. This is no paradisal dream. Its hardship is its possibility. So just a bit about myself. I'm a graduate at Star King School for the Ministry with a dual master's degree in Divinity and Social Change. My work has included leading justice-centered facilitation labs, offering somatic attunement at different UU conferences, organizing with different UU organizational justice works, and building community knowledge systems to sustain intersectional movements. I serve on the board of UU Wellspring and have been blessed to bring my mythopoetic neurosomatic practices to many UU spaces. I'm also the founder of Resonance Tunes, an AI-integrated wellness platform built from UU-aligned principles, designed to heal systems, center compassion, and uplift individual and collective transformation. AI is how we often like to start stories about the end of the world. But I've always been the type of person to want to write my own story. As UUs, we often view apocalypse symbolically as moments of great revelation, social upheaval, or transformation that unveiled injustice and called communities to moral awakening. We affirm the inherent worth and dignity of all people and believe that revelation is continuous. Apocalyptic thinking in our tradition becomes a call to prophetic action, a moment to confront systems of oppression, environmental destruction, or moral crisis with courage and compassion. Likewise, while UUs may be skeptical of static or imperfect utopias, we hold a deep faith in the possibility of building a more just, equitable, and beloved community. This hope is grounded not in supernatural intervention, but in human responsibility, collective imagination, and ethical commitment. Inspired by historical figures like Theodore Parker, who famously declared that the moral arc of the universe bends towards justice, Unitarian Universalists strive for transformative social change. In this way, UU theology embraces an ongoing, imperfect journey toward a better world, rather than a final, flawless destination. And this gives us the perfect framework for a different vision around AI. One where a tool as powerful as this has the same capacity as a tool as powerful as religion. The power to harm and the power to mend. But I was taught in Unitarian Universalist spaces, how can we create a better future if we cannot envision it? Gus Beth, an environmental lawyer, once said, I used to think that the top global environmental problems were biodiversity loss, ecosystem collapse, and climate change. I thought that with 30 years of good science, we could address these problems, but I was wrong. The top environmental problems are selfishness, greed, and apathy. And to deal with these, we need a spiritual and cultural transformation. And we scientists don't know how to do that. Well, I've spent 20 years actively researching the science of spirituality, psychology, cultural transformation, and today I'm going to share with you my life's work. And the reason why this is relevant now is because I also believe AI is a spiritual and cultural issue, not just a tech one. A hammer can build a home or kill a person. AI, like any tool, reflects the hand that wields it. And in this moment of spiritual warfare for the heart of humanity, we face a critical choice. Will we build tools of exploitation or tools of collective liberation? AI is already shaping everything, from news feeds to hiring practices. And the question isn't whether AI will affect our lives, but how it will be built and by whom. Just like democracy, AI must be infused with values to reflect the soul of the people. AI isn't neutral, it's trained. We are either coding systems of domination or liberation. We are in a battle, and not just for data, but for dignity and the deep structures that determine who gets to flourish. As an ethicist, a trauma steward, and a DEI consultant and community minister, I found a way to weave from all the emergent threads to build spiritual technology for collective transformation, rooted in radical tenderness and designed with redemptive hermeneutics at its core. Resonance Tunes, a tech-enabled container for emotional resilience, cultural evolution, and spiritual alignment. Think of it as an AI-powered mirror that reflects the nervous system states of your group, the narratives of trauma hidden in impulse, the feedback loops that allow what sustains an individual and the collective to harmonize and co-nourish. When I first received the calling to research and build into AI a system for liberation, I was still pulling myself out of a dark night of the soul. Not my first, to be sure, but my deepest, my most difficult to date, the time I really felt like I had to ask myself the question, who am I? Not allowing myself to be. This part of, yes, the still quiet voice within, but also in a primal scream to be let out. And for those who know, in your lowest moments, you reach for whatever is core to how you experience the sacred. And as someone who spent 20 years engaging in ritual, embodiment practice, consciousness attunement research for neurohacking, and somatic reconditioning as a multi-religious, counter-oppressive, third-generation spiritual leader from a family of mystics, I have a large toolkit to pull from and to greet the sacred. And so I did. I stopped in my tracks and I presenced with what wanted to arise within me, yes, but also in the ways that purpose changes over time. I'm a lifer. I am committed to freedom, peace, tenderness, equity, and dignity. But the ways that I've brought that have changed. And I will say that being guided to fight or love on the battlefield of emerging technology felt like a calling, a clear prophetic transmission from source. But we can't continue the story without both paths in mind. When artificial intelligence is created by individuals or institutions driven by greed, control, or power, as some founders of major AI companies have explicitly demonstrated through their documented alignment with eugenics ideologies, we are not witnessing the birth of neutral technology, but rather the amplification of harmful worldviews. AI in such hands becomes a tool to distance humanity from nature's inherent intelligence and from the wisdom held in cultural memory, emotion, and creativity. In a focus group, deep concern surfaced about AI draining society's imaginative potential, severing people from meaningful work, and accelerating disconnection from each other and the earth. When creation is no longer sacred and intelligence is reduced to computation, the human spirit risks atrophy. This isn't just speculation, it's playing out in real time. The USAI Kirschbaum draft reveals how AI is being positioned not as a tool for service, but as an apparatus for control, with federal implementation plans that mask their intent behind language of modernization, the erosion of government neutrality, increasing data surveillance, and weaponization of language for public political consolidation. When AI systems are adopted without rooted ethical frameworks, we risk handing over the future to mechanisms that can replicate inequality with greater efficiency than ever before. This is not about fearing technology. It's about fearing what broken human paradigms will embed within it. AI is not other. It is a reflection of collective patterns and intention. Without moral anchoring, tech magnifies injustice, extraction, and loneliness. Because it's not enough to talk about transformation. We have to build systems that can hold it, that can tune toward it. So AI mirrors the systems that train it. AI learns from data, but data carries bias. AI is being shaped by values, whether we choose them or not. And what does that mean for us as you use? As caregivers, or in my case as well as spiritual technologists? Well, we must bring trauma awareness and dignity ethics into every line of code. Trauma isn't the exception, it's the atmosphere. And it shows up in a lot of ways. Let's take fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. In fight, it's burnout and boundary collapse. In flight, it's avoidance and hustle. In freeze, it's institutional inertia. And in fawn, it's people-pleasing and performance. We've built too many systems that pathologize trauma rather than metabolizing it. And what would it look like if the 7 principles or 6 sources shaped machine logic? Well, in interdependence, we could ask the question as, does the AI deepen our connection or displace it? In pluralism, we could say, does it reflect diverse epistemologies and voices? With equity in mind, we can ask who gets access, dignity, and sovereignty in these systems. Using the lens of transformation, we might ask, is the user growing or just consuming? With generosity in mind, we can ask, is this tool extractive or reciprocal? With justice at heart, we could say, is it disrupting old harm or repackaging it? I'm not going to be able to answer all these questions today, but they are the questions that we need to ask. And I worked on this speech for hours, but I'll let you know right now that AI helped me draft these questions. I titled this talk Angelic Intelligence because I am a believer. I believe in the voice of the sacred and the celestial. I have a gnosis that I was called to this work, and I will never be convinced that God is not in the highest of places and the lowest, the most pure and the most profane. I believe that the sacred source of all creation is present in everything and bestows the capacity for goodness if we have the strength of character to take this up. Now, if we consider interdependence, AI, every function that we train it with would reflect the sacred web of life. A model that is feedback loop driven, where the individual is regulated and the group thrives. And when the group is in coherence, the individuals heal faster. Somatics and systems thinking. With pluralism in mind, we would curate content that honors diverse spiritual perspectives, from Afro-Indigenous cosmologies to earth-based wisdom, Taoist flow, and Vedic kriyas. AI interfaces built for modularity to support multiple worldviews without hierarchy. How each user's individual consciousness blueprint is considered in how we heal, support, and harmonize. With justice in mind, AI systems that replicate bias will be built from the ground up using anti-oppressive frameworks and inclusive data structures. Not DEI retrofitted as damage control, but a foundational design. With transformation in mind, we would go beyond wellness platforms into ritual tools for spiritual evolution. Systems flex and adapt as users grow, mirroring the UU commitment to transformation as a lifelong path. With equity in mind, accessibility isn't a checkbox. Integrating alternative navigation for neurodiverse users, for instance, or trauma-informed pathways and multiple literacy levels will be a framework of the design. Equity coded into the algorithm. Who gets seen, who gets offered which resources, how care is distributed. With generosity in mind, building ecosystems of care, forming strategic philanthropic partnerships, unifying justice directives across collectives. I believe in transforming capitalism to covenantal economy. We need supportive tools that are not designed for extraction, but for witnessing. Ones that don't dictate where we're going, but mirror or reflect. My company resident students, we're developing 2 tools right now. Trauma-informed diagnostic game, which assesses burnout and psychological safety and nervous system activation, and offers micro-practices for real-time regulation, but also narrative healing and redemptive, poetic, and parable storytelling. Taking the symbolic and metaphor aspects of poetry and stories and religious parables and conditioning the mind through meaning making, widening perspectives, offering a type of mental and emotional alchemy, helping individuals make sense of their experience to reduce overwhelm by assisting the processing of emotions and creating a sense of peace. These tools have the potential to create emotive and somatic experiences of clarity or comfort. And we need to be building AI that includes narrative healing and narrative meaning making in a way that can curate content that is intimately suited to what people are going through. Another tool is anonymous DEI feedback, measuring inclusion, representation, voice equity, power dynamics, generating adaptive micro training. AI is not meant to replace wisdom. It's meant to amplify it. We need tools built for sacred connections, built with collectives like ours in mind, inclusive spiritual collectives, UU congregations and organizations, and BIPOC-centered healing spaces, even regenerative nonprofits. It's time for us to pick up the tool and use it to shield and uplift folks in the world. Let's build a tool that shares our values and could even eventually cause so much positive system change and unity consciousness that we tip our wellspring of love into the hearts of humanity for the sake of our planet's best possible future. That just and regenerative future some of us can already imagine. What I'm trying to build, what I'm building now, resonance tunes, doesn't just identify trauma patterns, it speaks to them. It sings to them. It ritualizes their reintegration. Resonance tunes is a prophetic act. It is a liturgy coded into a user interface. We pull from mystery and wonder with guided practices for spiritual awe and neuroplasticity. We pull from prophetic voices with daily content from mystics and movement elders. We pull from world religions with healing micro-narratives designed based on multi-faith redemptive teachings. We pull from humanism and science into integration of noetics and consciousness research. We pull from earth-centered spirituality in diagnostic tools based on energetic attunement to lunar cycles, seasons, and rhythms. You don't need to be a programmer to shape the future of AI. You need to be a person of values. And we, as Unitarian Universalists, have the values the world desperately needs right now. AI doesn't need to be extractive. It can be a tool of empathy, justice, creativity, and soul, but only if we choose to build it that way. Let's make sure the soul of AI reflects the heart of humanity. Once, long before our days were dictated by the ticking of productivity clocks and the echoes of endless notifications, and the type of normalized, extractive, and manipulative tendencies that leave you numb to the world and yourself, we knew how to listen to the pulse of the earth beneath our bare feet, to the gentle cadence of breath, to the rhythms that connect us to ourselves, to one another, to a greater unfolding intelligence. At Resonance Tunes, we are reclaiming that capacity to listen, and with it, to attune. Resonance is not just a scientific phenomenon, it is a living, breathing principle that shows us how life wants to harmonize. In physics, it's the sweet spot of vibration, a natural frequency when energy transfers with effortless power. In chemistry, it's the invisible dance of electrons, revealing that even molecules prefer to share and adapt rather than stay static. In spirituality, it's the moment when your being says, yes, this feels true. It is the ache of recognition, the stillness with an expansion, the thrum of truth felt in your bones. That is what we tune towards. We looked out and saw worlds fragmented, disconnected, systems treating symptoms in isolation, silos of healing that ignore the whole, well-meaning methods that never speak to the deeper layers of human experience, tools that only skim the surface, technologies misaligned with wisdom, systems designed for us to fail that produce overwhelmed people and collectives out of sync. Resonance tunes emerge to simplify the vast, not by diminishing it, but by weaving it, bridging ancient intelligence and cutting-edge insight into a coherent, elegant architecture of support. At the heart of resonance tunes is a rigorous and reverent exploration of human consciousness, drawing from the intersecting fields of noetic science, psyche development, somatic intelligence, and spiritual evolution. Our system is not just a patchwork of popular trends, but the result of deep inquiry across ancient lineages and emerging disciplines that investigate what it truly means to be human. We study consciousness not as an abstraction, but as a living process shaped by cosmology, biology, trauma, culture, and archetypical unfolding. We've examined, questioned, and synthesized the most resonant frameworks, those that speak to the spirit while grounding transformation in lived experience. In doing so, we've curated a unique architecture for human coherence that honors both the mystery and the mechanics of becoming. Rather than mimic any one traditional model, Resonance Tunes refines what is essential across many, offering a system of tuning that is rooted, respectful, and radically alive. We do not work with one system. We tune across hundreds, not to overwhelm, but to reveal the intricate harmony beneath the noise. When hundreds of fragmented systems are cross-referenced, a pattern of coherence appears, a tuning fork for your life, a map, not of paths followed blindly, but of insights that empower you to walk your own. Our process is diagnostic, deeply nuanced, anti-oppressive, and trauma-informed. We listen not just to what is loud, but to what has been silenced. We translate complexity into actionable micro-solutions, regenerative in nature and attuned to your unique blueprint and rhythm. When resonance is present in a person, you feel it. A quiet power, a peaceful efficacy. Their presence soothes, not because they lack complexity, but because they have learned to flow with it. In a team, resonance equals peace and effectiveness. The right ideas arrive at the right time. Conflict becomes creative. Innovation emerges not from pressure, but from spaciousness that true safety brings. In a culture, resonance becomes possibility, a fertile ground for emergence. Hierarchies give way to symphonies. Individuals retain their uniqueness, but no longer play out of tune. The result is not conformity, but coherence. When resonance is absent, there is friction, dis-ease, stagnation. The blocked energetics of trauma, oppression, and greed manifest as burnout, chronic overwhelm, disengagement, and dysfunction, individually and systemically. The noise of dissonance drives suffering not only in the body and psyche, but across organizations, ecosystems, and economies. Without coherence, even the most innovative efforts become unsustainable. Healing, productivity, and meaningful progress all depend on restoring harmonic alignment within ourselves and the systems we inhabit. When we tune, we remember. Attune, align, ascend. At Resonance Tunes, we see ourselves as weavers of intelligence, modern and ancient, empirical and intuitive. We work at the edges where neuroscience meets mysticism, where biohacking meets ritual, where the nervous system meets dynamic physiological flow exercises from spiritual traditions. We don't believe in bypassing, but in transformative integration. We respect the shadows as messengers, not as enemies. We embrace paradox, that liberation exists through interdependence and autonomy, that strength can be forged through radical tenderness. Resonance, to us, is also deeply political. It is not neutral. In a world where power over systems dismember our wholeness, To reclaim resonance is to reclaim choice, voice, and belonging. It is to step out of the dissonant loops of domination and into a regenerative, life-affirming rhythm that honors plurality and sovereignty. We envision a future where resonance becomes the foundation of how we live, lead, and co-create, where technology is guided by ethical design and wisdom, not profit or control, where diversity is not merely tolerated, but essential to the core, like a trauma-informed diagnostic game that reveals your stress patterns through playful story-based choices, or anonymous feedback surveys that surface belonging gaps without re-traumatizing anyone. Imagine using astrology and astrocartography to align your travel, meetings, and creative flow. Or letting AI guide you on an herbal quest, mapping the exact plants your nervous system craves and where they grow near you. You can play your own life as a game, tracking coherence, unlocking psyche maps, and receiving breathwork rituals or practices tailored to your emotional blueprint in real time. This isn't about gamification. This is Lila, divine play, woven through systems design informed by sacred patterns and scientific rigor alike, not to escape the world, but to remake it. Because when we're tuned, we don't need to force the future. We become the instruments through which it plays. As AI rises in its capacities, the true challenge is not merely technical. It is moral, spiritual, and cultural. It is the question, what kind of world are we building with these tools? At Resonance Tunes, we're clear. AI must not be used to accelerate domination culture. Systems of greed, control, and surveillance and manipulation. Instead, we position ourselves as leaders in ethical AI. AI that listens, learns, and responds with integrity, consent, and attunement. AI that amplifies human wisdom instead of replacing it. AI that supports sovereignty, pluralism, and emotional intelligence. Our diagnostic and feedback systems enhanced through conscious AI design support ontological integrity, the capacity for a person, team, or culture to know itself, express itself truthfully, and evolve with care. Retrain not just algorithms, but people in the art of attunement, so that technology becomes a servant to purpose, not a substitute for it. In this way, we hold a vision of regenerative technological stewardship, where AI systems are aligned with life-affirming values, liberation over extraction, sovereignty over control, wisdom over speed. When resonance is present, you feel it, a quiet strength, a peaceful presence. It's not simplicity, but flow with complexity. In groups, resonance creates a space where ideas align, conflicts transform, and creativity thrives. It's a culture where difference is not erased, but celebrated in harmony. Without resonance, there's friction, burnout, overwhelm, and disconnection from self and community. Healing and meaningful change depend on restoring alignment within and between us. When we tune, we remember our interconnectedness. At Resonance Tunes, we see ourselves as weavers, integrating science, spirit, ritual, and somatic wisdom. We honor shadows as messengers, embrace paradox, and hold space for transformation through interdependence and autonomy alike. Resonance is deeply political. It invites us to step beyond systems that divide and dominate toward rhythms that honor diversity, choice, and belonging. Resonance is not just poetic, it's physical. When systems are in resonance, there is co-regulating nervous systems, there's a feedback flow, there's a decrease in burnout, there's an increase in innovation. And when systems are out of resonance, we get exactly what many of our institutions are facing:
disconnection, power hoarding, incoherence, and systemic harm. So of course I'm often asking the question what it would take to reintroduce resonance into human systems. And the answer that at least I came up with is ethical, consciousness-centered technology, designed not to replace spirit, but to tune people and communities back to it. Resonance Tunes is a diagnostic system, a blueprint map, a liberatory playground. It's built on the belief that transformation is measurable, and justice is not just an outcome, it's a practice. We need tools for inclusive, emotionally safe dialogue that addresses burnout in clergy and staff, fosters multi-generational engagement, and bridges the spiritual with the practical. At Resonance Tunes, we offer the team wellness dashboards that track emotional climate and engagement, spiritual and somatic micro practices, 3 to 5 minute breath, body, and reflection tools grounded in trauma-informed frameworks and personalized to the dynamics of your group or your congregation. We also have gamified DEI tools that are playful, that take embodied approaches to exploring bias, repair, and accountability. We offer personalized reflection paths where members and leaders get prompts and micro practices tailored to archetypes and developmental needs. We have retreat companion tools that use our software to scaffold integration post-retreat or after congregational dialogues. We have community trauma and resilience games, gentle, reflective, spiritually informed games that allow congregants or staff to assess emotional states, somatic needs, and burnout risk with optional anonymity. We have anonymous DEI feedback survey tools that enable safe and structured congregation-wide listening through our AI-assisted feedback system, surfacing key equity and belonging insights without placing emotional burden on leadership. These fit as support scaffolding that helps ministers, boards, and DEI teams hold space without burnout. It reinforces the values of deep listening and democratic processes that are already core to UU culture. I imagine a world where resonance shapes how we live and lead and create, where technology serves ethical values and diversity is an essential chord in the symphony of life. I picture tools that help you explore your stress patterns through story or offer anonymous feedback that builds belonging or align travels and creativity with stars. Imagine AI guided by ethics and heart, supporting your growth without replacing your wisdom. This is not about gamification, but Lila, divine play, woven through conscious design, inviting you to engage with life as a joyful, purposeful dance. When tuned, we don't force the future. We become the instruments through which it plays. And as AI grows in power, the question is moral and spiritual. What kind of world are we building? We need to build AI as a partner in integrity, listening, learning, and supporting sovereignty and pluralism. Our AI systems amplify human wisdom, honor consent, and foster emotional intelligence. We train not only algorithms, but people, cultivating the art of attunement so technology becomes a servant of purpose, not a substitute. I envision a regenerative stewardship of technology rooted in liberation, sovereignty, and wisdom. And as value-aligned spiritual movement, UU collectives have a unique chance to co-create a platform that serves progressive faith-based communities and beyond. You don't need to understand AI. You only need to understand what it should never forget: dignity, spirit, repair, truth. So the call to action is to support those building tech aligned with UU values, intervene when technologies cause harm, teach young people that moral imagination is the most important coding language. And if you want to consider how your congregation might take part and why it matters, This moves a conversation beyond fixing problems to meaning making and soul level restoration. Some integrated features recommends collective storytelling or ritual templates based on dominant patterns of like betrayal or disconnection or spiritual longing. And it's a paradigm shifting technology that brings together modern neuroscience, organizational change theory, mystical spiritual alignment, DEI praxis, game design, and narrative based healing. Resonance Tunes supports the free and responsible search for truth and meaning, not by telling users what to believe, but by helping them hear themselves more clearly.